Who do you think has the better team going into the game on Saturday? Dre, let's start with you.
Well, I think I, I will go on a limb and say that I think Michigan has, yeah, overall the better talent. And I think MSU has some game breakers. I'm gonna say Michigan. I'm gonna say Michigan, but it's not by much because I gotta, and that's what we're gonna find out about this week. You know, how really good is Kenneth Walker the third? Is he? This is if you're a true Heisman, if you want to win the Heisman, this is when Kenneth Walker needs to really break out. He needs to have one of those 150, 200-yard rushing games, a couple long runs for a touchdown, because it would take that kind of game-breaking ability, I think, to beat this Michigan defense, which no one has been able to do, which is when they suffocate you. They are so disruptive at their line of scrimmage and with their front seven. I know Northwestern had that random long run, but other than that, that really doesn't happen to this Michigan defense. But it's going to take that kind of a big playability, which MSU has shown throughout this year to get it done. But, I think overall, position group to position group, I do give the edge to Michigan. And honestly, it should be like that, considering the fact that this is Mel Tucker's second year. He shouldn't, and he's had to go into the transfer portal. He got to the campus and he kind of weeded a lot of guys out that was left over from the D'Antonio era. So they shouldn't be on Michigan's level talent wise in the first place.
Yeah, agreed. I think Michigan, just top to bottom, I think they're more talented. You look at position groups, and I just think Michigan has the edge more often than not. The one that I'm concerned with the most is probably the wide receivers. I think
Oh yeah.
I think Michigan State has more game breakers than Michigan does. The Ronnie Bell injury, I mean, it was 7 weeks ago now, but nonetheless, that was big. Like, that was the guy. If we're playing, NCAA, like, you're getting the ball to number 8 quite a bit. So
Yeah.
other guys have stepped up, but as far as just being that game breaker, I don't think any of the Michigan receivers have stepped up to be that type of game breaker. And I think Michigan State has done a really good job of doing those things. But I think, like I said, I think Michigan is the more talented team going into the game. Mark, what say you?
Yeah, I go with Michigan as the more talented team. I don't think it's an enormous gap, but I think it's decided. I don't think it's really debatable that they've got a more talented team. If we had some kind of metric that we could apply to it beyond the recruiting rankings, meaning that Michigan State is obviously complemented or supplemented their recruiting more with the transfer portal and some big additions, of course, Kenneth Walker being the biggest. The difference, I'll say, and when I was listening to Dre, I was kind of running through the offense where I think they're very similar offensively in regards to the level of play at each position. They both have elite running back play. Their offensive lines are blowing people off the ball, doing the job. They both have top 3-4 offensive lines. I'm going to say these are 2 of the 3 best offensive lines in the conference. And yeah, the wide receiver play, Michigan State's asked their guys to do more. They've produced more plays downfield, to your point, Des. And I'm going to say that Peyton Thorne has played better to date than Cade McNamara. Absolutely. Not by a ton, but I think he's been a little bit better. I think Michigan has more star power on defense. I think they have more explosive players and great players on each level of the defense, whether that's Josh Ross, Daxton Hill, Aiden Hutchinson, of course, and some other guys. Those were the 3 obvious ones coming into the season on each level, but other guys have emerged into like all conference type players. So I think Michigan's a more talented, better defense. I think Michigan State's just playing well together as a defense, but they don't have that explosion talent, NFL talent at as many positions on defense.
Yeah, it's it'll be interesting. Someone had mentioned score prediction, which we'll definitely get into that. Mark will get the Kirk Herbstreit treatment because he's on College Game Day he doesn't call the game, I'm sorry, because he's calling the game he doesn't give a score prediction. So we know Mark does his picks on Patreon. So if you haven't subscribed to that, please do. So we'll definitely get into the score predictions. So another interesting thing wanted to bring up to you gentlemen is one thing that I think is one of the most crucial things in this game, especially for Michigan, is going to be Josh Gaddis's and Jim Harbaugh, their first 15 plays. Because you think about especially high level college football and NFL football, most offensive coordinators are going to script the first 15 plays to where outside of you busting a big run, essentially, we know exactly what 15 plays we're going to run. We practice those. Today's Wednesday. So, Thursday, Friday, walkthroughs, practices, we're going to go through those 15 plays and we're going to make sure that, we have those things down pat. And to me, if you can generate, 10, 14, 17 points in those first 15 plays, because essentially you look at it, that's roughly between 2 and 3 drives, like I said, outside of a 70-yard touchdown run. But you're looking at 2 or 3 drives. If you can generate points and end up, with, let's say, best case 17 points from those first 15 plays, I think that's going to put Michigan in the catbird seat exactly where they want to be, to where really the rest of the game, or for a good chunk of it, it's going to be exactly what you want. It's going to be the situation where you can run the football and you're dictating the pace of the game. You just have complete control of the game. And on the flip side, if you're talking 3 and out, I mean, and just punting, I just think that'll put Michigan behind the 8 ball. I think it'll put them in a tough spot. So that I think the first 15 is going to be, especially for the Michigan offense, which, we've talked about the passing game, not being as efficient, as explosive. I think it'll be just crucial to get off to a hot start and really put some pressure on Michigan State's offense to make, because essentially what you want to try to do as well is try to take Kenneth Walker out of the game. Make it a game where Thorne's got to throw the ball. They can't get in their own rhythm. It's something where you start to put pressure on them and really take them out of their game plan. So, Mark, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to highlight a few comments in the live chat because I think they kind of speak to it. There's a number of predictions you guys can check out in the live chat, many of which have Michigan winning either close or I saw 30-13. I saw some pretty good score separation there. Wow. I'm guessing from some Michigan fans.
Yeah.
Also, it was brought up by a number of people that, so Janet says this, and a lot of other people are saying that, and I'll post some of the comments that, Sparty's last game was a life and death struggle with a 2-5 Indiana team that was a 17-15 game late, 20-15 final, could barely get anything going on offense. That's the first game really Kenneth Walker has met some resistance. He got some yardage, but it wasn't just the big blow up 150-220 game that he's been posting across the board. He ran for 84 yards on a lot of carries, less than 4 yards per carry. And Indiana was right there in the game with Michigan State. So, and we know Michigan had that kind of game with Rutgers, but they've also put together they've separated that game with some nice efforts and more dominant performances where, I kind of thought Michigan State going into that game with Indiana, even though they were playing so much better football, much better record, of course, we're playing a team that basically had the similar talent, and then it might show, and it did. So another point being made by a number of people in the live chat that maybe Des didn't appreciate your comment about no Michigan wide receivers really standing out or showing that they could make big time catches in big games, is that maybe Kate's missing them. Maybe they're open and Kate's not necessarily just the missed throws, but I know some people have commented on just not seeing them, not making the throw. in addition to missing throws, just guys that he should be connecting with and seeing. He's just not cutting it loose. So,
Yeah,
I think the longer the game is a close game, and especially if it's an ugly kind of 10-7 game, the more it favors Michigan State. I think Michigan has more potential to separate themselves.